What's up, guys? Welcome back to IAM Real Estate. On today's episode, we have Devyn Ryan. Devyn is a mortgage lender with Movement Mortgage. So in today's video, we're just going to be interviewing Devyn, asking him some basic questions. Like always, guys, like the video, share the video. If you guys have any questions, leave them in the comment section. I appreciate everybody for watching. Let's go ahead and get started. So, Devyn, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, as it had stated, my name is Devyn Ryan. I'm a mortgage loan officer with Movement Mortgage. I've been in the business for about 5 years now. I'm local to Camden County, in particular in Massachusetts, where I do the majority of my business, but I'm also licensed in Connecticut, all of Massachusetts, all of Florida, and ready to help your real estate needs as far as mortgages go.
There you go. As far as mortgages go. So, how many years have you been in mortgages? Because I know that I think I've known you for maybe 2 or 3 years now. How many years have you actually been doing mortgages?
So I've been I've been licensed for about 5 years now, but probably about 7 years total as far as mortgages go.
Seven years doing mortgages. Okay. And so what were you doing before you were actually licensed?
Just back-end stuff that you didn't really need a license for, so processing work and stuff to be able to get the loans through rather than being the front end of
Got it. Okay. That's fair. So, in your time working with mortgages, right? So, as long as you've been a mortgage lender, what are the top 5, loans that you write? Top 5 most often loans, okay?
Yep. So
that includes FHA. Everybody knows you're going to say FHA. We talk about FHA.
Important.
Yeah.
So I deal with a lot of first-time home buyers. Myself and my team, we kind of specialize with first-time home buyers. So FHA is definitely going to be the number one we usually deal with. I would say secondly, you're probably looking at more of a conventional option, but there's a lot of loan types that are rolled into a conventional bucket.
Yeah.
So, I mean, at some point we can probably dig into that a little bit more. I would say VA would probably be our third route for all the veterans.
Right.
And then recently, especially since COVID kind of loosened up and a lot of the bond programs came back open, where your down payment assistance programs that are provided by the state or city, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
There's a few of those kind of bucketed in there too. So I mean, between those and then USDA is probably the one I write the least. But again, it's another good program to have in the tank because it's 100% financed.
Right.
So if I had to go in order, let's say FHA, conventional, VA, bond, and then USDA.
Okay. I got you. So, just as like a basic, very, very basic, somebody's coming to you and say, hey, Devyn, what's the qualifications? If you had to give top 2, top 3 qualifications for your most common loans, what would they be?
Well, as a mortgage lender, when we're looking to pre-approve someone or inevitably close their loan, there's 3 basic things that we're going to look into. In every initial phone call, this is what I expect or tell the clients to expect when we're talking.
Right.
We look into their credit, see where they stand. We go over their income, see what they're looking like, how much they're making, how long they've been at work, is it stable, those kind of things.
Right.
And then their assets, so how much they might have available for a down payment if anything's going to be required. So if you have a combination of all of those 3, or maybe even a few of those 3, it really depends on the person. That's what we're going to be looking into and determining whether you're going to qualify for this purchase.
Yeah. So what would you say is like the because this isn't often a question that I often get as an agent, and I'm sure that you often get it as a lender. What's like baseline credit score?
It's really going to depend on the time. I mean, I would say the minimum that's going to be required, if you can find a lender that's out there these days that is doing them, which there's very few and far in between, but 500 is the absolute minimum. Yeah. We don't do 500 here. 580 is the minimum that we will go to, but if you want to put yourself in a good situation, especially in a market like this, you're probably looking more like a 620.
Yeah, 620, which is what I always say. I always say 620, guys. 620 is going to be where you guys want to be safely. I've mentioned in other videos before where I'm like, if you have less than a 620, you have to find the right lender that's going to work with you, but it's going to be really, really difficult.
Yeah, I mean, under a 620, you're going to be your programs are extremely limited, first of all. Your monthly payment's probably going to end up being a little higher than where you would be at a 620 because your interest rate's obviously not going to be as good. Even a lot of the lenders that work under a 620, if you're not in an immediate rush, they'll probably work with you to try to get you above a 620 before pushing you forward throughout the process.
Right. And so since we're just talking about credit scores and we're talking about, different loan types, for somebody who might not have the cash, who might not have the capital or the assets to go ahead and put down a large amount. Say you had somebody who comes in and they're like, I'm looking for a bond type of loan that's going to be a no money down program. What's the minimum that somebody should be looking for to come in at that? or even I know it gets pretty complicated, so it's not even just about the credit score, but like what are one or two, maybe even three major things that you guys are looking for that type of to write that type of loan?
So bonds are a little bit more difficult because it's not just us that approve it, it's also the state or whatever government entity is actually offering the program.
Right.
So before, again, when COVID had struck, a lot of things in the mortgage industry had changed. One of the first things to go were bond loans because states didn't have the money to be able to give
Right.
people. But since they've started coming back a little, they're not as strong as they were before as far as the variety of programs that they offer.
Right.
So credit requirements are still a little bit more tight, and that's nothing that we can control. Unfortunately, that's what the states decide.
Right.
But I would say to put yourself in a very good position to be able to qualify for one of those programs, again, it's going to depend on the state because Connecticut's a little bit different than Massachusetts.
Right.
If we're focusing primarily on Massachusetts, you're probably going to want to be a 680 or above.
680 or above.
Which,
yeah.
I mean, it's really not, if you're not there yet, it's really not that hard to get you there. It's just a matter of determination and time.
Yeah.
But the other few things that bonds really look into, which I'm pretty sure I saw you address on one of your videos, but debt to income ratio.
Yep.
How much money you are making to how much money you have going out in monthly bills.
Right.
So there's a calculation that we use to determine how much you can afford based on that ratio. Whereas your FHA loan is going to give you a little bit more buying power and be a little bit more flexible with that debt to income ratio.
Right.
But your bond loans are going to be much more strict.
Right.
Because it's even more imperative that you pay that back.
Gotcha.
So the three things that really are going to, bond loans in particular, are going to focus on are going to be credit score, it's going to be credit history, and then debt to income ratio.
Okay. So when you say credit history, what major things that can help you or hurt you on like just looking at credit history?
So there's a few huge pieces to credit history. One, your biggest focus is going to be on-time payments.
Okay.
Your credit score is going to get whacked the more late payments that you have.
Yeah.
Which would also include collection accounts. Obviously, if you've fallen behind, you're no longer liable for it, but they're going to put it into collections. It's going to drop your score quite a bit.
Right.
How many inquiries that you have on your credit is going to absolutely destroy it. If you apply for a credit card today, an auto loan tomorrow, a mortgage the next day, your score is going to drop drastically because you're showing that you want to take out a lot of the credit, you're more risk. Credit is purely based on risk assessment.
Yeah.
The more credit you're looking to apply for, the more riskier you are.
Right.
So it's very easy to ruin a credit score. It's extremely hard to build up a good one.
Right. So what I'll say is this, guys, and Devyn's actually one of the people who've taught me this the most, and kind of giving this advice to me when I'm talking to different clients. Apply for the mortgage, then get the credit card. Apply for the mortgage and then get the auto loan, because I mean you can go to there's different places out there. Credit Ready. Credit Ready is a place that they're gonna give you an auto loan regardless. They're gonna find something that's gonna work for you. Apply for the mortgage loan first. Okay, so. Throw that in there.
Yeah, one of the biggest things you don't want to do is, especially when you're in the mortgage process, is opening new lines of credit. So,
right.
I mean, it just seems that whenever you pull your credit score for something, there's a lot of subscribers that subscribe to people that specifically pull credit. So if you pull for a mortgage, you're going to get phone calls from other mortgage companies because they subscribe to things like that. So when you pull your credit score, you're going to get offers from a variety of different things. The key is to just ignore. Like when you're in the mortgage process, don't touch anything to your credit.
Right.
Don't spend any unnecessary money. Don't make any job changes. Whatever you apply with, end with.
Write it out. So I know a minute you were talking about debt to income ratio. So this is a question I actually asked somebody else in real estate not too long ago. What do you think your ratio is? Like people that you actually talk to and people that come to you and say, hey, Devyn, I want to buy a house. Or hey, Devyn, I want to get pre-approved for a loan. The amount of people that you actually talk to versus the amount of people that you actually hand out, pre-approvals to. What do you think the ratio is there?
I think it's gotten a lot better because since COVID restrictions have kind of laid off a little bit, more people are starting to get pre-approved.
Right.
Some loan programs have recently made some very big changes that impact debt to income ratio directly.
Right.
Which there was reasons why we couldn't pre-approve them before that. Now we're finding that we can. But I mean, again, me personally, I deal with a lot of first-time homeowners.
Right.
So my ratio is honestly probably like 50-50 because there's people that just have no idea. They're just looking. They saw a house on Zillow and, hey, I kind of want to buy it. And then they find you and you send them to me for the most part.
Right.
But at the other hand, there's people that, took the first time home buyer's course or they've spoken to somebody in the past or they've been kind of coached to do so. those are the ones that are ready to go. So, I mean, realistically, dealing with primarily first-time homebuyers, you're probably going to be closer to that 50-50 range. But again, the 50 that work right now, perfect, we'll get them into a house. The 50 that don't, we at least can come up with a plan to help get them there in the next 6 months to a year.
Okay, and so that was actually gonna be one of my my questions coming up. So when you can't pre-approve somebody right away, do they? And this is not any. I'm not talking about all lenders. I'm just talking about you particular and Movement Mortgage in particular. You know, do you guys? Obviously, you just said you help set them up on a plan. Do you stay in contact with them? Do you kind of hand them off to somebody else, or how does Movement Mortgage handle those?
It depends. So my team in particular, we can help as much as we can. Now, we're not credit specialists whatsoever. We can only really advise to what we've done in the past, what we've seen, what helps works, what we may have done personally. So we can look at a credit report, we can run a credit simulator to be able to see what we might be able to pay off, what we might be able to do to kind of do certain things. One of the biggest things is credit card utilization when you're trying to rebuild.
Right.
If you're more than 30% credit card utilization, your score is going to be negatively impacted. So for instance, if you have a credit card that has a $1,000 high limit and you're $300 or more, your credit score is actually going to suffer.
Right.
As soon as you're under that $300, your credit score is going to increase for the most part.
Right.
So when it comes to a lot of things like that, we can help them directly, or if it's something that's completely out of our control, we do have a team of credit repair specialists that we usually refer people to.
Right. So it's just kind of one of those case by case scenarios. So Devyn is somebody. When I first met Devyn about 2 years ago, Devyn said every mortgage, that every what's the word I'm looking for? Every application, every loan that he's gonna write, anytime he's gonna hand out a loan and he's gonna help somebody get a house, every person in every case scenario is gonna be different, right? Devyn always says it's like a blank whiteboard, it's like a blank canvas, and you just have to pull the pieces together and figure out if it's gonna be possible. So there's no one way, you know what I mean?
Yeah, every person's going to be different, 100%. I mean, even people that think they're in a very similar financial situation, I can guarantee you they're not.
Yeah.
And there's tips and tricks where one mortgage lender or bank might be able to do something where another one can't. So,
right.
The good thing that I found at Movement in particular, out of the few different companies that I've worked for in my team, to be more specific, is that we look for ways to be able to make a loan work. We don't tell someone no unless we know for sure it's not going to work.
Right.
And again, when we do tell someone no, it's not necessarily no forever, it's just no for the immediate.
Right. And so another question, like I'm sure you get, or I often get as well, is what's the timeline? And it's like it's crazy. Say, oh, if I get a credit card, how long do I have to wait to buy a house? Or, oh, how long do I have to wait before my credit score is going to shoot up? Every case scenario is just going to be different. You can't, there's not one that's going to be exactly similar to another.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, so, I mean, most of the time, if you're opening new lines of credit, the biggest thing that's going to affect is 1, your credit score,
right,
2, your debt to income ratio.
Right.
If you're very close on like a max of probably what your debt to income ratio should be, and you take out a $500 auto loan,
yeah,
probably just shot yourself in the foot.
Right.
But I mean, it's tough, and that's why I know when we've had these conversations in the past, we've directed people like, listen, if you really want to buy a house, now's not the time to take out that car loan. Now's not the time
right.
to open that credit card, and now's definitely not the time to use that credit card. So,
right.
In reality, each person is truly significantly different. Whereas one person can apply for an auto loan that day and qualify for a mortgage to follow, whereas another person may have just, throw along buying a house for a year to 2 years.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Buying a house is worth it, guys. Buy a house.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, unlike most other things that you're going to buy, the asset just continues to grow in wealth. Whereas as soon as you drive that car off the lot, you're losing money.
Right. I mean, ultimately, when you guys buy a house, you're buying an investment.
Right.
We're not going to get deep into that, but
no, right.
Yeah, just throwing out some fun stuff out there. So we're going to switch gears a little bit.
Sure.
So one thing I want to talk to you about is I know that, and I made a short video about this, and you're actually, I think that you made a post or something like that made me make a video about this. But recently, the government made some changes with the FHA loans, and now where it was 1% of your school loans, and now it's 0.5%. Again, guys, you guys can go look at my other video to figure out what we're talking about. But affecting your debt to income ratio. So like you said, there's been things changing since COVID happened. Everything kind of got worse. Now things are starting to get slowly a little bit better. What other changes do you have happened that may not be out there as much for buyers, or that might not be out there for somebody even like myself, where I'm not in the mortgage industry? And what other changes do you see that could be coming?
So as far as predicting, I know there's a lot of things that are in the works as far as things that are going to be changing.
Yeah.
That FHA change is extremely big, though. I mean, there's you got to think about it. So the change refers to people that have student loans that are in deferment. Everybody's student loans are in deferment.
Right.
No one's hardly.
Nobody's paying
right.
$100,000 cash rate to pay off a student loan.
Or even like an income-based repayment plan. Like
Right.
A lot of people are in an income-based repayment plan.
Right.
So whereas before, if you had $50,000 in student loan debt, we had to use $500 a month against you in your debt to income ratio because that was 1%. Now we only have to use $250 a month to free up in your debt to income ratio could increase your purchase price or your pre-approved value by $50,000 to $60,000 or
Right.
easily.
Right.
So it kind of gives you a lot more buying power, and we've been waiting for some conventional products had changed that about a year ago, a little over a year ago. USDA had changed it. We've been waiting for FHA to make the move. It just so happened that they recently did it, and I kid you not, that day we were able to send out 10 additional pre-approval letters.
Yeah.
Just because those were people that weren't able to qualify, and then just probably another 15 people that just increased their pre-approval.
Right.
We're still seeing more every day as clients continue to come back.
Right.
So the biggest difference between stuff like that, like actual FHA rule changes or conventional rule changes, and then just interest rates, folks. Like, I mean, right now interest rates, I mean, you're probably no longer really in the 2s anymore, but to be in the low 3s, whereas 2 years ago we were in the mid 4s to low 5s, you're going to be able to afford more house for what your payment now is going to be significantly cheaper than it would have been 2 years ago in singles.
Right. Right. And so, I mean, because we're talking about, 2 years ago versus now. 2 years ago, the market was much different than it is now, and so, I made another video and we talked about it. There was another point we were talking about. You're better off paying more for a house and having the lower interest rate, and then wait for the houses all to drop, and waiting for the prices of houses to drop, and going for the higher interest rate. So do you have any comments? What comments do you have, or what thoughts do you have on today's current market, and basically how mortgages and taking advantage of the low interest rates now, or even the rising interest rates, because you said they are a little bit higher, but the interest rates and what's going on in mortgages versus what's going on out there in real estate and buying houses, and how offers are ridiculous.
So
and prices are absolutely ridiculous.
It's absurd, and I mean, from what people are listing their houses for to what they're actually going under contract for it's amazing. I mean, I get the question probably, friends or family members that come up to me and ask me if it's a good time to buy. It's a very good time to buy as long as you go into the market with realistic expectations. If you're going to go into the market and you're going to start looking at houses, you look at a house that was listed for $250,000, but your aunt that bought a house 10 years ago told you to offer $200 for it because it's not worth that much. Like, this isn't going to be the easiest market for
Right.
you. But if you go in listening to the real estate professionals that are behind you, that are trying to get you into these homes and that are trying to advise you in ways that they see to be able to make deals work and get you into the home, then it is a good time, because you might be spending $20,000 to $30,000 more than what you spent even a year ago on a house.
Right.
Because home values have increased that much. When there's little supply for something,
Right.
what you have is going to generally increase in value.
Right.
But even though you're spending $20,000 to $30,000, rather than having interest rate in the 4s and you might be in the low 3s now, the difference in payment is going to make up on itself.
Right, and you just made a really good point, because I always make that point too. And another thing that I always get is, why would I want to pay $20,000-$30,000 extra for a house? And I would rather just wait for the market to go back down. But the reality is, nobody knows when the market's going to go back down. Nobody knows if rates are going to drop or if they're going to raise or anything like that. So that's a really good point that Devyn made, because I think that if you're in the position to buy now and you have the mindset where you're going to be patient and you have the mindset where you're going to listen to your real estate professional, it's a great time to buy. It's never really a bad time to buy. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You kind of get what I'm trying to say?
Mm-hmm.
So you just have to make sure you guys have realistic expectations. Make sure you're in a good position. Honestly, somebody did ask, I don't know about you, but I get this question all the time, is it a good time to buy? I think it's a better time to buy now than it was 2 years ago, and it's because of the rates, and it's because I've done the math, and you're better off paying more money for a house and getting the better rates. And I know that Movement Mortgage, Movement's, in our area at least, Movement's usually right around the best rates in the
Yeah, we're up there. We make sure we can stay competitive, and
Right.
not just locally. I mean, even with your bigger Quickens, your Rocket Mortgages, those guys that are on the outside looking in. But We try to stay competitive nationwide with whatever the rates are. One tool, if you guys ever want to know what that tool might be, it's something that a lot of loan officers use to track where current interest rates are.
Yeah.
It's called bankrate.com, so bankrate.com. You can put in basic criteria there. It's going to tell you what a national average on the interest rates are going to be.
Oh, see, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
See, so we all learn something new every day.
Yep.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I didn't know that. So, and that's does it, I mean, just off the top of my head, I'm asking, the answer could be no, but does it break it down by state or no?
Yeah, so you'll have to put in your zip code. If you're putting like 5% down or 3%, it'll...
You guys saw that? He did that on purpose.
Just so you know, guys, that was Braden Cubic with Movement Mortgage, and there he is again. It'll break down what the area might be. It'll break down what loan program you're typically applying for, and it'll give you a list of lenders that are kind of at the top of that list. But keep in mind, a lender can tell you pretty much, or well, not necessarily a bank, but a lot of mortgage lenders can tell you any specific rate that they want, any rate that could get you through the door. What they don't necessarily have to tell you is how much you're paying for that rate,
Right.
And that's why you might get, a 2.25% for an interest rate, but you have $15,000 in closing costs, where I might give you a 2.75 with only $8,000.
Right.
So, choosing a team, especially in a market like this, is crucial. A team that communicates well. So between your real estate agent, your lender, your attorney, having everyone on the same page to be able to guide you through the process is more important than ever in my mind.
So, I know that, so yesterday Devyn issued one of my clients a pre-approval, and so whenever Devyn sends out a pre-approval, you always send out 2 documents. You always send out the pre-approval letter. What's the second document that you send out?
So I send out a pre-approval letter, which obviously you're putting in your offers with
Right.
and shopping with, and then I also send out a loan quote. The quote is there specifically because I don't want to waste your time. I don't want you to waste anybody's time or
Right.
your money, in fact. So when it comes to that loan quote, what it's going to do is it's going to put you in a position to know what your approximate monthly payment is going to be,
Right.
and then also how much you're going to have to bring to the closing table.
Right.
So monthly payment is huge, right? Because you might want to buy a $300,000 house because it's beautiful. However, do you want a $300,000 payment?
Yeah, a lot of people don't want that bill.
Exactly, and I can't tell you towards the beginning of my time in the industry how many deals that fell through once they went under contract because they were expecting the payment to be $1,200, and then when they figured out it was $1,700, it changed the entire ballgame. Because a lot of people don't realize, you might see a mortgage calculator on Zillow. Don't pay attention to it. Because it's not factoring in a lot of things that are going to be crucial to your payment.
Right.
A lot of people don't realize it's not just paying off your mortgage per se. There's also property taxes that are included in that mortgage,
Right.
which in this area are massive. There's homeowners insurance, and most of the time, especially for first-time homebuyers, there's going to be mortgage insurance too.
Right.
So there's a lot of things that are going to go into that payment that you weren't expecting. So knowing when we pre-approve someone not based on how much they can qualify for, it's how much they want to pay.
Right. And I mean, the reason I ask what that second document it is too, because on that document, guys, I mean, anybody who's ever been pre-approved by Devyn knows it. He literally breaks it down. He said, this is going to be your approximate cash to close. This is how much you're going to have to bring to the closing table on the day of closing. They factor in everything, like he said. They give you guys straight up your monthly payment on what your mortgage is going to be. And I always tell people all the time, when I go to Devyn, I usually don't have to tell people to ask for this, but if you guys ever go to a different lender, always ask, hey, can I know what my monthly mortgage is? Can I know what my monthly payment is? Because the reality is, for a lot of us, we're not buying a $300,000 house. We're buying a $1,700 mortgage. That's what is going to say when we go into our Excel sheets and we pay our bills every month. That's what we really want to know. And so I think it's really cool and it's really important that you guys hand that out. That's the only reason I mentioned it, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, a lot of people might not necessarily hand them out. They might be afraid to get shopped as far as their interest rate
Right.
goes when you see a higher interest rate. Me personally, I care for my clients and I want them to get the best deal possible. If I can't do it, then you might as well find someone that can do it better. But typically, if you find someone that can do it better, you're usually sacrificing something. So,
Right.
It's not always cheaper and better.
Right, yeah. Sometimes you have to find the happy medium.
Yeah.
So, for somebody who's, looking to get into mortgages, somebody who's looking into getting into the industry, like what is the process? What's the steps if somebody wanted to become a mortgage lender in Massachusetts or even in Connecticut?
So becoming I gotta tell you, I got really lucky with how I got into it with the company that I was working for at the time. They just kind of found me. They were looking for salespeople to fill in certain roles, and I just fit right in.
Yeah.
What I tell most that are looking, because I get the question frequently, to how to get into the mortgage industry. It starts with you have a 20-hour course that's required to take. You can find it right online.
This is Mass and Connecticut, or is it just nationally?
This is national.
Nationally, okay.
License. Each state is going to have a different requirement too. But you have to start by taking your 20-hour course, which, like I said, you can find right online. Once that's done, you'll schedule your loan originator test.
Yeah.
Once you pass that, you'll be able to start getting licensed in specific states.
Yeah.
Certain states require you to take additional education before you can apply for the license.
Yeah.
You get fingerprinted and everything. And once you pass the test, once you get your license, most companies will be able to bring you on. Now,
Yeah.
do you want to start as an outside retail loan officer like myself, whose business is based primarily on referrals? Maybe not. So a lot of people that come into the industry will start at maybe like a local bank where they have a steady supply of people coming in.
Right.
Or even like your online lenders such as like Rocket Mortgage or Quicken Loans, because you just pretty much sit in front of a computer and dial out all day.
Yeah.
So if that's what you're into doing, it's up to you. I mean, that's how I started in being a loan officer, and I'll never do it again.
So, again, just going back to Mass, Connecticut, does Mass or Connecticut require, because I know a lot of the viewers are usually from Mass or Connecticut.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we have anybody from California. If you guys are from California, make sure you comment so I know that there's somebody here from California. But for Mass or for Connecticut, is there additional education?
Yes, so I'm not sure in the exact hours. We do have to take continuing education each year too.
Yeah, we have to do the same thing as a real estate.
Yeah, I mean,
estate
it's 1 to 3 hours. So, I mean, I think the pre-education for Massachusetts was 2 hours, if I'm not mistaken. It might have been 1 hour for Connecticut.
Yeah.
Florida, I believe, was 1 hour too.
So you have your Florida license?
I do.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So it's really not much. Honestly, most of the time it flies by, and once you pass your 20 hours, you're not really learning much new. It's just state-specific laws.
Yeah.
that
Just
you'll
kind of
probably
staying up.
never
Just
use
kind of
again.
stay. Yeah, there you go. Trying to staying up with it. Do you have any advice for anybody who's trying to get into the industry? Any good advice, bad advice? From experiences like you said, you've been doing mortgages for about 7 years.
The one thing I will tell people, and this isn't just necessarily mortgages, it's just real estate in general. A lot of people come into the industry because they think it's a way to kind of get rich quick.
Yeah.
And to be
Yes,
honest with you,
that is true. I have to say that. Yeah, it is.
100%. The majority of the people, that's why most real estate agents don't make it out of their first year.
Right.
But the one thing I can tell you, it's 100% not that at
Right.
all. If you can do well, whether it's mortgages or real estate, if you come in ready to work.
Right.
This is an industry where no one's going to tell you how much you're worth. You can decide if you want to get out there and write your own paycheck. If you want to go to work that day, you do. If you don't, you don't. No one's going to babysit you.
Right.
So if you want to come in and work and tell yourself how much you're worth rather than someone telling you you're worth 50 grand a year,
Right.
this is a good spot for you. But understand you're going to have your ups and your downs, and the harder you work,
You're
the
gonna
less
have
time
your
you-
crazy markets.
Yeah, yeah. It's just how you navigate through. The people that can make it through markets like this are the people that are going to be all right rooting for.
Yeah, and so it's funny that you say that. You just know kind of what. I don't know exactly what you said, so I'm not going to quote you, but you did mention about, there's different ways to get into mortgages, and when you get into this industry, you have to know what you're getting into. Don't come in here to get in just to get rich quick, right? I actually made a video, and we've talked about when you're heading into the real estate industry, because I know as an agent, guys, I'm always going to give you the agent perspective, but a real estate industry does consist of mortgage lenders, and it consists of processors and different people that work in here in this office, right? So it's all about knowing what you guys want to get into and knowing, what is your goal and your ultimate goal, because my goal might not be the same as Devyn's goal. I'm an agent and he's a mortgage lender. We do different things, but heading into the real estate industry, we both understood that, and I think that's another important thing to understand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
100%. You will be able to do well, measure your own success in an industry like this if you're willing to work, and that's in the mortgage side. That's whether you're an underwriter, that's whether, like you said, a processor, a loan officer assistant,
Right.
A junior loan officer or a senior loan officer. It doesn't really matter. All that matters is the work ethic that you bring into the job.
Yeah. So what is if you had to give us one, just the biggest lesson that you've learned as a lender in your last 5 to 7 years?
Ask questions. It's amazing, and this is kind of how, just to kind of give you a comparison to what a local lender might do compared to like more of a, I don't want to throw their name under the bus, but let's just say an online lender. When I first started in the industry as an online lender, we take almost everything for face value. So
Right.
if someone completed an application, we believe that they made $20 an hour and
Right.
they work 40 hours a week, and we believe that they have $20,000 in the bank, and we believe all of these things, and we send a pre-qualification or pre-approval letter based on
Right.
that. I can't tell you, well, you know how many times that we've seen that that's never the case.
Yeah.
So when you're talking to people, ask questions and truly understand what's going on in their process, because the more work you can do up front to ensure their loan is going to close, the less fallout that you're going to have in these deals. And fallout, reputation make or breaks you in this industry. So if you have a lot of deals that are falling out, whether you're a real estate agent or a mortgage lender,
Right.
you're not going to get a lot of offers accepted on your deals.
Yeah.
So I would say asking questions and listening is probably the biggest tool any loan officer, any real estate agent, anyone in sales honestly can ever have. You just
Right.
have to know the questions to ask and listen to the answers. Don't just shake it off, just actually listen.
And so, what would be your biggest piece of advice? I don't know, biggest thing that you've learned, and the number one thing that you would tell anybody that's looking to get a loan, anybody who's looking to buy a house, from a lender's perspective.
One, you're never going to know until you apply. So a lot of people think
Yes, I gotta agree with that.
Yeah, a lot of people think that they can't qualify. But in reality, the standards aren't what they were. A lot of people still think you need 20% down to put down in a house.
Yeah, I get that. I get that very often.
A lot of people think you need 20% down. Like, there's conventional programs as little as 3% down. We were just talking about bond programs earlier that might help you with a down payment.
Right.
FHA only requiring 3.5% down if you're above a 580. So you don't know until you apply, and we can't help you get there until you take that jump. So the majority of the people I've ever talked to want to be a homeowner. But how are you going to become a homeowner? The first thing you can do is figure out where you are. And you have apps like Credit Karma that'll tell you what your credit score might be. Credit Sesame or your Experian or your Capital One credit card app. A lot of those are focused on more of a consumer score, which are going to be more of like what auto loan companies will pull. For instance, when I just got a car for Ashley,
His wife.
yeah, we went into the shop. I checked Credit Karma before going in because I was bored.
Yeah.
Figured out what it was there, and then when they pulled my credit score, it was exactly what was on the Credit Karma app. Whereas when I pulled the mortgage for my house, it was not the same.
Right.
So those are going to be tailored more for a consumer credit score, whereas what we pull is just a different version of credit scores.
Yeah.
And there's usually about a 50 point swing, up or down. So you'd never truly know.
Is it usually 40 to 50?
From what I've seen, yes.
Oh, okay.
Most
Okay, so that's good to know, because I usually tell people it's going to be a 20 to 30 point swing either way. But
40 is usually where it comes pretty close.
okay, yeah.
But yeah, honestly, the biggest advice I could tell anybody is you don't know until you know. I've talked to a ton of people that thought they would qualify that didn't.
Yeah.
And I've talked to a lot of people that didn't think they would qualify that are now homeowners. So
Right.
It really just depends on the person.
I got you. So, last question. This is the most important question. I always ask it at the end. What is your favorite flavor of ice cream?
Chocolate chip cookie dough.
Chocolate chip. Oh my. All right. See, you guys. All right. I'm not lying, but like when I looked you in the face and you like went, like I was like, oh, he's gonna say something chocolate chip.
Yeah, chocolate chip.
I thought it was gonna be chocolate chip mint though.
Nope, chocolate chip cookie dough.
Chocolate chip cookie dough. All right. So thank you, Devyn, for allowing me to come into your office and sitting down with us and having a conversation today. As always, guys, if you have any questions, comments, I'm actually going to be attaching Devyn's contact information when I upload this video. So any questions, comments, any thoughts, just drop in the comment section. Hope to hear from you guys soon. You got any last?
That's it, guys. Looking forward to working with you in the future.
So anticlimactic. All right, guys. Have a good day, everybody, and I will see you guys again soon.